Greetings, YouTube viewer. This is Mike Daly, and you are watching the Cut the Crap channel. So, today I wanted to talk about, the title of this message is Bizarre Opposition to Mass Transit. And what I'm referring to here is here in Atlanta, Gwinnett County. It's a county northeast of Atlanta, second most populated county in Georgia, and there is a referendum coming up for a vote March 19th on whether or not to allow MARTA, which is the Atlanta public transit system, to come into Gwinnett and do some pretty major upgrades to their mass transit system. Now, for about the past month, about a month ago, I started working as a door-to-door canvasser with this organization called the New Georgia Project Action Fund. Basically just going door-to-door, informing people about the votes, and trying to persuade them to vote yes. I mean, not getting into arguments with people, but just giving people, kind of the basic information they need to know. And it's been interesting just hearing the people that have objections to this, because to me, I've been living in Atlanta, or the general area, since 1995, and pretty much anybody that lives in Metro Atlanta knows that Atlanta is, pretty renowned for having really bad traffic. And so to me, anything that would help alleviate that, like any kind of improvement to public transit, to me should be a no-brainer. But nonetheless, there's still a fair amount of resistance to this. In fact, my understanding is it looks like it looks kind of iffy if it'll pass. I'm really hopeful that it will, but I think based on polling and early voting numbers, it just looks I don't know, 50-50. I'm not sure, so I wanted to go over some of the typical objections that I've been encountering and have heard others have been encountering for this. And the biggest one that I've run into is what I would call kind of class objections. Basically, I'll find this with people that are more upper class and live in maybe the farther reaches of Gwinnett, kind of, like the type live in big houses, that sort of thing. And what I found a bit surprising is that race does not seem to be so much of an issue. I mean, initially, my thinking was, okay, a lot of this may just basically be racism, because it's people's attitude may be Atlanta has a very high percentage of African Americans, and so I thought it'd kind of be we don't want those kind of people, or the bad people coming up here, and there certainly is that, I think, the racist element. But what I've been surprised to find, though, that even among African Americans, there's resistance. I guess in the kind of upper class echelon, be kind of running into kind of similar arguments. I mean, there's concerns about it leading to more crime, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because statistically, like areas of Atlanta, like where there's a MARTA station or a MARTA presence, have less crime than areas that do not. Um, so that's one thing I've been finding that's interesting. So and I guess it's probably like that's probably the biggest thing I would say. Just kind of upper class people who just they don't want anything that's going to kind of rock their world at all, or anything that's going to could possibly interfere with the sanctity of their subdivision, or I don't know. And so that seems to be the biggest point of resistance that I have found. Um, Now, some other points. Some people are just opposed to just any kind of new taxes at all. It seems like it's being funded by a 1% increase to sales tax over 40 years, which would increase Gwinnett's overall sales tax from 6 to 7%, which really is not all that high. There's other counties in Georgia that are higher. It would kind of put Gwinnett at kind of, I think, mid-range as far as sales tax and as far as Georgia goes. And even like we as canvassers have been taught to explain it, is the good thing about being a sales tax is that, statistically, 30% of that would be paid for people coming in from outside the county to shop or do business. So that's much better for Gwinnetians than, say, like an increased property tax. So, but again, there's some people that just or just really seem to be opposed to any new taxes. So I guess there's that kind of, I don't know, libertarian element. Let's see. And now, and some people have objected over and to me this one makes a bit of sense, just over the amount of time it would take, because and it is true that the entire project, I think, would take something like over 20 years. Extending the existing rail line up into the Gwinnett up to Norcross, that's going to be the thing that takes the longest. But there were still things that would happen relatively soon, like within a 5-year period, like expanding the bus lines, and as well as adding what's called bus rapid transit routes, where basically commuters could get on the BRT buses from designated lots, and then these buses would actually have their own dedicated highway lanes so that they shouldn't get stuck in traffic. So to me, it's still a sensible. It's not something where you'd have to just wait. It's going to just be a really long time before you'd see anything. And now another objection I've seen, which it's actually, I'm surprised by how commonly people say this, but it's basically the idea that expanding MARTA or mass transit would actually lead somehow to more congestion. And people will say stuff like, I don't want all those like MARTA buses up in here. That's just going to make it worse. And but the thing is that a bus can carry a lot of people, a lot more than a car. So I think logically that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, I kind of know where they're coming from, because I live in DeKalb County. It's like a county east of Atlanta, And, there is MARTA here. And so sometimes, you'll be on the roads and there'll be like a MARTA bus that's in front of you and then has to, stop to drop people off or pick them up, which, I mean, that could be a little irritating. But I also know that, those people, one, you have like your poor working class people that really just need a cheap way to get around. And, without the buses, they would be kind of forced to have to pay more money probably doing rideshare, which would lead to more traffic. And there just needs to be alternatives besides driving, because Atlanta, the road system, I think it's already well past what it was originally designed to handle. So, and Gwinnett's just going to keep getting, as far as people, it's going to just keep getting bigger and bigger. It's on track to be population-wise, to be the largest county in Georgia within 20 years. So, but I would say what this kind of, the objection, I think a lot of the objections really amount to is really just a kind of selfishness. It's just people who don't want anything that's could upset the status quo, could, possibly do anything to make things, harder for them, is kind of, I think the attitude is, and that, this isn't spoken, but say, I'm doing well. I've got mine. I like things the way they are. And these are, fairly intelligent people. I mean, they've obviously done something right to be able to, be within kind of the upper class and have these nice houses and whatnot. So, I mean, they should be able to understand the concept of, you're going to get more and more people. Traffic's going to get worse and worse. But yet they just, they just still oppose it for what I would just call selfish reasons. And I think as Americans in general, I think we do have a tendency just to be kind of selfish, just very individualistic. I think Americans, we don't have so much a sense of, being in a community as maybe in other countries. And so a lot of people have, say, mass transit, that's okay for, poor people or people who want to do that. But I really need to have my car. It's like, no, you just want to have your car as a convenience, but you don't really need it. You could, you could take the bus and the train. So, it's just, that, I think that kind of attitude is just, very, prevalent. And, I think it's, frankly, I think it's kind of, could not bode well, for America if that kind of attitude doesn't change, because, I mean, we're looking like another issue. We've got, climate change. We've got about 12 years as a nation to make some, pretty major changes, or otherwise it could get to a point of no return, with climate change, where, essentially it's too late, that things would just kind of reach a point of cascading effects that we wouldn't really be able to recover from. So anyway, so that, feel free to comment. I mean, I'm just curious, like, maybe in your area. I mean, I know other cities have like pretty good, transit systems, but, I'm just curious about your thoughts. So please feel free to leave your comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell so that you will be notified when I release future videos. Thank you. Have a good day.